lecturer in Literatures in English at the University of Reading. This screencast is about decentering the English in English literature, focusing on an optional Part 3 module I run called Global Literatures, Translation as Theme and Theory. The module focuses on the concept of cross-cultural contact. Most of the texts are in English, but also include fragments of other languages. We also read some foreign language texts, translated into English. All of the texts are about intercultural encounters or border crossings, and many feature translators as characters. These set texts vary widely in form to reflect the diversity inherent in literature. We study several novels, a novella, poetry, a play, and one text that really resists classification. It's a mixture of essay, autobiography, mythology, history, and poetry. These texts are drawn from across the world. They are set in, feature characters from, or are written by authors from Bangladesh, Eritrea, France, Ireland, India, Italy, Japan, Lebanon, Scotland, Sudan, and the area around the Texas-Mexico border. The module attracts a high proportion of Black, Asian, and minority students, both British and European, as well as international students. In the department as a whole, only about 1 in 6 of our undergraduates are BAME, but both times I've run global literatures so far, at least half of the students were. The module allows these students to recognise themselves or their family histories in the set texts. It centres some of the identities that are usually marginalised in UK higher education. Crucially, I want students to see that being a migrant or speaking English as a second or additional language is an advantage, not a lack. The module description explicitly flags to prospective students that skills in additional languages may be useful, though they're not essential. White British students routinely encounter authors of their own nationality and ethnicity in the curriculum. By contrast, this module deliberately decenters Englishness and whiteness. It invites those students, usually in the majority, to acknowledge and unlearn their privilege. The module is partly assessed through an online journal. Students post a short entry each week, either written or recorded, reflecting on what they've learned and how they learned it. This reflexivity is key. It promotes knowledge of both self and other. I encourage students to bring their individual skills, knowledge and experience to their learning journals and to our classroom discussions. They might use multiple languages, show an understanding of other cultures, practice creative writing, or experiment with audiovisual technologies. All of this values students as producers of knowledge. Alana, a student from Singapore, wrote a series of creative vignettes exploring her own complex ethnic, national, linguistic and religious heritage. Whereas traditional assessment methods like the essay and exam demand an objective critical voice, the learning journal invites students to explore their subjectivity. British students with a diasporic heritage can also use the journal to explore their identities. Hannah found that the module made her curious about her family background. In this journal entry, she interviewed her parents, migrants from the Philippines, about their use of English. Another British student, Jake, became sensitised to cultural and linguistic conflicts across the world through reading Brian Friel's play, Translations. He took photos on a visit to Cyprus, observing how everyday acts of communication, like road signage, actually participate in a linguistic and political hierarchy. Rohini understood that diversity exists on our doorstep, not just overseas. She took photographs and wrote poetry about her local area, West London, using her journal to engage with the cultural others in British society. Another British student made use of social media, Tumblr and Twitter posts, to question the values inherent in the idea of standard English. Premela shows here that international differences are further complicated by intergenerational ones. Finally, another international student from Bahrain felt empowered to use her knowledge of Arabic as part of her studies. In this journal entry, May put a piece of Arabic text through Google Translate and compared this with her own translation. Having her linguistic abilities valued on the module prompted her to consider translation as a career. Feedback shows that students value this opportunity to develop their global awareness. One 2018 graduate wrote, "I valued a lot of things on this module, but mostly its ability to constantly challenge preconceptions." Another said, "I think it should be a mandatory module." Including text from all over the world helps to attract a diverse group of students, and valuing their knowledge and perspectives makes the classroom itself a site of intercultural contact. In line with the principles of internationalisation at home, this enriches the English literature degree for all. Any discipline can draw material, texts, theories, thinkers, case studies from across the world. This module models how a reflective tool, like a learning journal, can scaffold this, prompting students to recognise how their knowledge is situated, what they might learn from others, and how they can educate themselves to fill in the gaps.